Helen here. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to be making a couple of baby cards just using the same onesie stamp set. So I'm starting off with 2 card bases 5 by 7 inches and then 2 card toppers the same size. I'm going to be using this cottage cut stitch circle die, the memory box baby sentiment die, clearly besotted little onesie stamp set, the paper artist 10 tags and trims dies. I'm going to be using the tag from that, and the Creative Expressions polka dots mask. I'm going to start off by putting one of the toppers onto my mat and sticking it down with some painter's tape, and then I'm going to use the mask over that on an angle. I'm going to be doing some ink blending through the stencil to make some polka dots on the background of my card. So I'm going to start off with the Versacolour Sky Blue ink cube, and I'm going to use a stencil brush instead of a blending tool this time. And then I'm going to use 2 distress inks, one's shaded lilac and the other is tumbled glass. And I'm just going to blend some areas through the stencil, just making sure that with the stencil brush that you go both ways, you go clockwise and anti-clockwise, just to make sure that you get an even coating through the spots. Now I have sped up this video quite a bit this time because it was looking like it was going to be quite a long video and I thought you might all get bored, so I've sped it up, but I hope you can see everything that I'm doing. I lift the stencil just to make sure I've got the areas where I want it, and I put the stencil back down and just fix up an area towards the bottom which I look like I've missed. So that's the background for the blue boys card done, and I'm now going to work on the girls card. I'm going to do some colour blending for the girls background. I use worn lipstick and spun sugar distress inks. I put a faint coating of the spun sugar on first and then work some worn lipstick from the side onto the card, but you'll see that I get a bit heavy-handed with that, so I had to really work at it to try and smoothen it out. I ended up with still having a bit of a splotch on it, but the tags that I'm going to use on the top of it end up covering it up, so it's not too much of a problem. So I continue to work on that until I'm happy with that, and then I'm going to go ahead and do some of the cutting out. So I take the second and third to largest circles out of the stitch circles die set, and I'm going to cut the smaller one with white card and the bigger one out in some vellum, and then I'm going to cut the tag out on the white card as well. And then I'm going to use the Cherry Lynn Dutch Daisy border set. One of them's got a border die that only cuts the outer edge, so I'm going to use that on the blue card just as a pretty trim down the side. I'm also going to go ahead and cut one of the same tags out in a pink and mauve designer paper, and I'm also going to then cut 4 of each pink and blue of the baby sentiment die out. Baby sentiment die is a very fine die, so you've got to be very careful pulling out the die cut from the die. So a trick that you can do so that you don't stretch the die cut is to use a pokey tool and just follow the channel where the cutting edges on the die and just push it between the cardboard and the die, and the die cut will just lift out, just go right round the whole die, and it all pops out beautifully. The next thing I'm going to do is glue all the die cuts together, one on top of the other. You've seen me do this before, but I'll just show you the very first layer, and then I'll just skip to when they're finished. The next thing I'm going to do is do the onesies. I've got some designer paper, but it's fairly thin, so I'm going to thicken it by doing some cardboard on the back. So I'm using some double-sided paper. It's got sticky on both sides, and I'm just sticking one side down onto the cardboard, peeling the top layer off, and then popping my designer paper on top, and then trimming it around so that I've more or less made a thicker piece of design paper. I'll then stamp my two onesies, one with the pink striped paper and one with the blue chevron paper with VersaFine Onyx black ink, and then Ranger clear embossing powder, and then heat it with my heat tool. Clean any stray powder off my mat. I'm very messy when I'm doing embossing, and then I'm going to, while I'm doing stamping, I'm going to do a couple of little sentiments for one for each of the cards. There's a little word precious in the onesie set, so I'm going to do that on a little strip of black card, and then emboss it with white Ranger white embossing powder. I'm now going to fussy cut out each of the onesies with my EK Success Cutter Bee scissors. They're really great scissors. I can't recommend them enough. They've got lovely fine tip. They're just great for fussy cutting. This time I haven't left a border, I've gone right up to the black line. I have sped it up because I'm, as I said before, very slow with my cutting. I apologise for being all over the place. I seem to be doing bits and pieces of each of these cards. I'm now going to do the top part of the boys card. So I've got the vellum and the white card circles, and I'm just going to trim a little bit off the edge just so that it looks like it's right on the edge of the card, and then with double-sided tape I'm sticking the card to the vellum, and then I've got a piece of fun foam cut out in a circle which I'm going to stick behind the vellum. This just causes a bit of a shadow which helps give dimension to the card. Next I'm going to stick the onesie on with some double-sided tape. I'll stick the baby sentiment die stack on with glue, and then I'll use some glue to stick the precious tag. And that's the boys' blue card finished. This video I decided not to use music throughout the video just to see how it went, whether people liked having the quieter sessions or whether they like to hear music in between when I'm displaying things. So do pop some comments at the bottom of the video if you prefer one way or the other. I'd love to hear. I just thought I'd experiment with whether I did or didn't use the music. Next I'm going to start working on the girls' card, so I've put some pink spotted paper down the folded edge of the card base, and I'm just going to stick the sponged topper onto that. Now I thought that looked a little plain, so I ended up getting some pretty iridescent sparkly tape that I had in my stash from quite a few years ago, and I trimmed a little strip off of that, and I'm going to put it down the edge of the card just to make another sort of sparkly stripe on it. I took the two die cut tags that I'd made out, and I'm going to just have the pattern paper one peeking out from underneath the white one. So I just glued on the middle and the edge of the white tag just to make it stick so it wasn't going to move. I'm then going to get a bit of pink and white striped baker's twine, and I'm going to just thread a piece of that through the hole at the top. I stuck that down with some double-sided tape onto the card, and then I've used some foam tape on the back of the onesie just to raise it up a little bit, just give a bit of dimension in this card, and then glued the baby sentiment with some glue on the bottom of the tag, and then put the precious tag. I wasn't sure where I was going to put it, but I ended up putting it on the other side of the onesie. You'll also see that I tied a tiny little pink bow with some really fine pink satin ribbon, and I'm going to glue that just on the top neck part of the onesie just to pretty it up a little bit. Later on you'll see that in the still photos I decided to put a little pink button into the hole of the tag just as a finishing touch. To finish off both the boys and the girls card, I decided to put just a sprinkling of sequins just to pretty it up a little bit. So I've used some white iridescent sequins and some pretty pink posh clear sparkling sequins, 4mm ones. Thanks for joining me today. I hope I've inspired you to make some baby cards. Thank you for joining me today, I appreciate it. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.